Hello, welcome to Venture Panel. I am Pastor Chris Boone, and today we have some awesome guests. I know there's a lot more people on here than what we typically do, but we wanted to remember Pastor Brandon, the youth pastor, and these are all people that were in Brandon's youth ministry. Pastor Brandon was these guys' youth pastor. Not my Now I'm going to say that over and over because everyone's like, "Oh, Brandon." I was never in his youth ministry. I was always his intern. So I wanted to clear the air. But Brandon was an awesome youth pastor. I got to see a youth ministry grow from like 500 to 1,000. It was incredible. And so I think a lot of people have a hard time visioning Pastor Brandon, the youth pastor. So I'm going to have you guys go around and introduce yourselves. So we'll start with Jen. Go ahead, introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Jen Arment. I was in Pastor Brandon's youth ministry when I was a senior in high school and then interned for him after that.
Awesome. Travis?
I'm Travis. I was in Brandon's youth group starting in 8th grade. So I've known him since like 1996. And then I was with him as a faux intern for quite a while. I wasn't really an intern. I just hung out with those guys.
He was my personal assistant. First one ever.
Okay.
I'm Cassie, and I was in Brandon's youth ministry since I was in 6th grade, 95, 96.
Awesome. And then Chris Parker?
I'm Chris Parker. I was in Brandon's youth ministry from 8th grade, so 95, 96, and then kind of traveled all the way around. At one point, I was the airport shuttle person, so there's many drives back and forth from Modesto to like San Francisco. But we'll get into that later.
And then Justin.
Yeah, I'm Justin Lamb. Was part of Pastor Brandon's youth ministry starting in about 96. I was 16, and that just means we've all gotten a lot older.
Yeah.
I know. 95, 96. Wow. Remember when life was simple back then? We didn't have to wear masks.
Yeah.
It's smartphones. Smartphones have ruined everything. No, I'm just kidding.
So I think people have a hard time remembering Brandon, the youth pastor. So I want you guys to tell me just right now, just like one of your favorite memories of Pastor Brandon. It can be funny, it can be crazy, it can be whatever, but just share a story real quick. Brandon's probably going to have some clips about it, but it'll be fun.
So what I want to do is after they share, I'll follow up with a story about them afterwards.
Okay.
So that way Jen knows that she has to deal with whatever she says because I have lots of dirt on them.
Well, this isn't a dirt story, but
If it is, we can go there.
I was a saint.
yeah.
Mine are.
I have
I just
pictures.
changed my story. I just changed my story.
Let's start with
It's going to be a really fast meeting, Boone.
yeah.
If we want dirt, you should have got Leslie Davis on this call. She
True.
could.
True. I can text them right now.
It would get messy real fast.
It's
They
the
said
reason
that they
that
were
we
too
have
busy.
Justin representing all of them.
Yeah, they said that they were too busy, so I got the husband. But let's go with Jen because Jen has a short period of time on this Zoom call. So, Jen,
Well, gosh, it's really hard to choose. First of all, Pastor Brandon was the best youth pastor of all time, hands down. Lots of youth pastors that I love, but he was the best. I would say my favorite story is when we were in New York together for a
Forgot about this.
Phenomenon live trip. We would do human videos and all sorts of stuff. And at one point, the lunch plans had fallen through, and Di had a whole crew of people who had spent forever organizing every detail of this trip. And there was an uproar because the lunch plans were falling through, and Pastor Brand just kind of jumped in. He's like, everyone needs to calm down. I'm going to fix this. I'm just going to leave. You guys can keep practicing and praying, and I'm going to take care of this. But I want Jen and Laisha to come with me. So me and Laisha were kind of like the younger sisters that tagged along thinking we had the cool older brother, Pastor Brandon. And Brandon took us down a sketchy alley and ordered some fried chicken, and it took like 2 minutes to resolve the problem. So then he looked at his watch and he's like, well, I don't really want to go back and practice, so let's go have some fun. So first we went shopping at Diesel, and Laisha and I wandered around while he got more and more clothes and more stuff. Then we went down another sketchy alley to a tattoo parlor, and Brandon walked in and he was negotiating with the guy and said, how about you come back to the hotel and you can give me a tattoo? And, you know, then he starts negotiating. I bet I could get other people to have tattoos, and then if you do this many tattoos, you could do my tattoo for free, right? And so the guy's like, yeah, I'll come to the hotel. And I'm thinking, we're going to get in so much trouble. I was already so mad. She thinks we're fixing lunch plans, and Brandon's out spending a bunch of money and getting a tattoo guy to come to the hotel. So I'm officially nervous, thinking I'm going to have to hang my head in shame while I'm walking around with Di. And then the tattoo guy comes to the hotel. And the next thing Brandon does is he says, I'll pay for either of you guys to get a tattoo as long as it has a B on it for Brandon. And I was like, well, nope, that's not going to happen. So then he proceeds to let this guy give him a tattoo, and a bunch of other people get tattoos. And Di walks in on some of the youth leaders getting a tattoo from this random guy, and there's like a line out the door, and she was livid. That was my most memorable Pastor Brandon moment. But then it's kind of like close to when he dared me to bungee jump and paid for me to bungee jump so I could see if he would do it. That's it.
Right?
There you go.
I had
Brandon.
repressed that memory. Thank you for. I forgot about the tattoo in the hotel. Di forgave me. Here's my memory I have of Jen. So I met Jen my very first Sunday at Calvary. So her family was a part of the Sunday night service, and again, I didn't know anybody, and so I was just looking around for anybody that could be a teenager. It's my first service there. And Jen was there. Wasn't a lot of people at that service, and she had just moved here from back east. So we kind of hit it off right away. And because Laisha was like my adopted daughter and had moved with us, I was trying to find friends for Laisha right away. And I thought, this person is going to be friends with Laisha. And anyways, that's how I met Jen. And obviously over the next year, our family got super close to Jen. And then when her family moved back to Boston and she decided to stay, her dad pulled me aside and told me to basically adopt Jen as my daughter, to look out for her, take care of her. And Di and I very gladly did that. Jen moved into our house and lived with us for, I don't know how long it was, a couple years.
Yeah, 2 years, 3 years, maybe 2 to 3. Yeah.
So that kind of, if anybody wonders why Jen is so close to Di and I, it really began on the very first service she was there.
Can I just say something about that? Because I actually met you a few times before that.
I just can't remember who you were.
I was at Brandon's the first time he preached as the youth pastor at Calvary Temple. I was at that service. That was my first service. And that was, I went down after to meet him, and I was like, hey, I'm Jen. You know, I just moved here. And he's like, oh, my sister's name is Jen. I'm like, oh, where'd you move here from? I said, Massachusetts. He said, oh my gosh, she lives in Massachusetts. And so we have this conversation, and then I see him the next Wednesday, and I go to say hi to him. He's like, hey, what's your name? I'm like, it's Jen. And he goes, my little sister's name is Jen. I'm like, he's like, you know, oh, you tell me. I was like, oh, I just moved here from Massachusetts. He's like, oh my gosh, she lives, you know, in Massachusetts. That happened 3 times before the Sunday service that Brandon's talking about.
So if any of you wonder, like, if Brandon has always not remembered names,
Always.
best example I can give right there.
Yep.
Awesome. Thanks, Jen. You're awesome, as always. So, Cassie, I'm interested to know what story you have for Pastor Brandon.
So I think mine is we would go and hang out at their house in Lake Stevens all the time. And it was back during the time where the internet was really blowing up. I know, it's so long ago. But he started asking us if we had email addresses, and none of us did. So he started typing, got on his TiVo and started making everybody a Hotmail account. I actually still have my Hotmail account. It is my junk mail email now, but I still have it.
I didn't even know Hotmail still exists.
It does.
It's junk mail. I still have mine.
Yeah. And did
My brother
Brendan
was
set
there.
yours up too, Chris?
What was that? Oh yeah, no, I still have the one Brandon gave me.
Brandon, do you still have yours? What was it? What
No,
was?
sorry, I was responding to somebody else. Do I still have my? No.
Do you
I didn't
remember
know
what
Hotmail
it was?
existed.
Do you remember what your handle was?
I don't know, Brandon L. Beals at hotmail.com.
Oh, is that what it was? You didn't do anything funny?
No, people didn't do that back then.
Oh, Cassie?
Mine, he gave me my dog's first name, or my dog's name, Kiana, at Hotmail. And then when I was dating Aaron and looking for a job, Aaron was like, that's not professional enough to give out to employers. So we changed it. But yeah, that was one of my favorite. I think one of my other favorite ones was one of our winter retreats that we did. And Brandon we had like 150 students at the church in Everett, and he kept telling us that the bus broke down and we had to walk with all of our stuff down the street to the bus barn to find a bus. And then there was another issue, so we had to go walk all the way back to the church with all of our stuff. And it was his plan all along, and we ended up sleeping at the church for the weekend, and it was actually one of the coolest retreats that we did. And we got to go around to all the different churches in Everett and serve them, and I loved that one.
So one of my favorite memories about Cassie has more to do with since I started Venture. Di and I had moved back. We started the church, and we had no money, so we would do Mariners games. And Cassie at the time was a ball girl for the Mariners, but because she was one of our youth girls that we deeply loved, we were always trying to help them find husbands. And so we would work these Mariners games together. And so this new guy named Aaron, this engineer, I didn't realize he was a cougar or I wouldn't have done it, but he was an engineer, and I thought that Cassie's organized, he's an engineer. So I arranged to have them work a Mariners game together. And the rest is history, and now they have a full quiver of children.
Yes, we do. Actually, that game, Travis was supposed to work at the booth with me, because you're like, oh no, I'll have Aaron work with me, it's fine. And then Aaron comes back, he's like, nah, Travis is working with him. Brandon said I have to work with you. I was like, oh, I know what you're doing, Brandon.
That's
I
funny.
used to say I had the spiritual gift of matchmaking. But then people like Jen fully disagreed with me.
Okay, Justin, you're up next, man.
Oh boy. I don't think I don't really have one big detailed story. I have a couple of instances, and since I'm speaking on behalf of 4 people, I've been given a few stories to bring up.
Okay.
First of all, a good story. Just all the times that we would do, for youth, and service would run late, or we'd be at camp or whatever. I don't know how many times I played drums with Josh Neisinger, and we would play either When I Think of Jesus, I'll Dance, 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 Kirk Franklin, or Shabbat for hours. And it was usually after PB, gave a really strong, powerful message. And then we'd take time at the end to pray, playing music or whatever. And oh my gosh, those 2 songs, I don't know how many times we played those just endlessly while he was, leading a very spiritual service. It was a lot of fun. At 16, I was just happy to be playing drums a lot. I probably didn't even really care about the spiritual part at the time, which is sad. But Now to the good stuff. My wife wants me to bring up that he was part of the power team and would break bricks for Jesus. Leslie wants me to bring up how he would wear bedazzled jeans and 80s band t-shirts. And I would like to bring up the time that he got stuck. I think it was on Casino, and I don't remember if it was your roof or
Oh, it was the roof.
if it was the roof, when he got stuck on the roof somehow and had to call the fire department to get him down. So those are my instances of PB to share with everyone. You can ask him for more details about any of those.
I mean, they're all good stories. Couple things that I always remember about Justin. I share this story all the time. I might have even shared it on a video like this before, but Justin's always been an amazing drummer. So, he's always kind of been the cool, funky drummer. And so he's playing for us on Wednesday nights. And I'll never forget when our worship pastor at the church, who was very traditional, needed a drummer. And so he recruited Justin to help. But the problem is he was one of those meticulously organized, has a schedule 6 months in advance, and, basically overcomplicates everything. We've all met somebody like that. And Justin wants to feel like he cannot do something at any moment. So I've always said about Justin, he will be totally committed if he doesn't know that he's having to be committed. So he always played the drums for us, but he lasted for 1 month on Sunday because he couldn't handle that structure. My favorite thing about him, though, with drumming is we were on one of our ministry tours, and it was a free day. We went to Universal Studios, and they were setting up a big, huge outside concert. And I don't know, this is back in the days when you could get away with stuff like this. Our students just kind of helped themselves to the band equipment, and Justin went over there and starts jamming on their drums. And I think the crowd has gotten bigger as my memory fades of the whole thing, but I just remember dozens of people gathering around this guy as Justin just being himself, jamming on the drums. He's always been super cool. I also love to remind Justin that he and Lindsay didn't let me do their wedding.
That's only partially true.
On this, he's the only wedding I didn't do.
You did part of it. That's partially true. But we were also like 12 when we got married and didn't know any better. So,
It's crazy. Okay. Next, we'll go with Chris Parker. I'm saving Travis for last because I'm not sure which story out of the three that he's going.
What is he doing? Sit down.
I don't know. He's like.
He's with his kids.
We should just let Unky Trav have his own like full hour.
Yeah.
The Unky Trav show.
He has a lot of good ones. I told him one he cannot use. Like, you can't use that one, Travis.
I have so much more dirt on, like, I have a lot of dirt on Jen that I didn't share. So
You were very nice.
I don't really have a lot of dirt on Justin, to be honest with you. I don't think I have any on Cassie either, but I have lots on Jen.
Of course not.
I will gladly share with
Cassie.
anyone not on video.
So we'll go with Chris Parker. Chris, what do you got?
I'll probably share a few different things, just some highlights like Justin did. But I think one of the first ones, as far as being in youth ministry, I remember Zelda came out, and Brandon, I thought he wanted to hang out with me, but he asked me to come to his house to help him beat Zelda on like the N64. And we had to go through it. And I'm like, I thought we were friends now. It was not till later. But
Did I beat it?
yeah, we beat it. Yes.
We beat it. Uh-huh.
Another one is like California. I became like I'd pick him up from the airport all the time, but I don't know if anybody else has been with Brandon when he bought a car. I should have grabbed some popcorn, but there is a sermon that he shares not constantly, but several times about how I'm sobbing. I was not sobbing, but if it helps the cause, then I was sobbing. But just to make that clear,
you got to admit the rest. Leading the dude.
The rest of it, yes. The rest of it was
prophesying over him.
No. I mean, the guy that you were witnessing to, and we're praying his office. All of that's true. Like, there's not. So I mean, let me see. I think there's probably going to be some more that pop into my head. But one other one after youth ministry, when you came up here, I was the Mill Creek mailman. So one thing that Brandon would do to me every time
That sounds like a
mail,
serial killer name or something.
every time he saw me, he'd pull his minivan over, open the door, and go, "Kids, look, that's Chris Parker. He's our mailman." So,
Nice.
yeah.
Wow. You know, they say the older you get, the more you forget. I don't even remember half these stories. This is amazing.
Oh yeah.
This is amazing.
Oh no, that's just the safe ones. It's okay.
I would say I have lots of memories of Chris too. The thing I would say about Chris is one of the biggest servants I ever had. Youth ministry, youth leader, no matter what it was. When we were in Modesto is 2 hours minimum away from any airport. And at this point in time, I was pretty much traveling, speaking like a week or two a month. And so I was always flying everywhere. And you might have faked it really well, but he enjoyed driving me to the airport, was always dropping me off, picking me up, was always on time. Whenever I would have my wife pick me up from the airport, she was always like an hour late. And Chris was always on. And so I always appreciated how well he was willing to serve in those seasons. And I probably owe you lots of gas money.
Well, I got to drive all your cars. So, I mean, at that time, my cars are breaking down all the time. So I don't know if it was the Jeep, your Cherokee, your minivan, your Protege 5.
Yeah, several of the Infinities that I owned. Yes.
Yeah. That's funny.
Travis.
Wait, you're muted, Travis. I'll unmute you real quick. Okay.
Sorry if I'm seem distracted. I'm like dealing with my 3-year-old, my 5-month-old. Neither one of them wants to nap. Speaking of cars, when I first met Brandon, he had a Mustang with a drop top, really cool car. And I remember one time he tried to take us to test drive the new Volkswagen Beetle. It was me, my friend Jeremy, and Andrew, and he was trying to show us like how cool this car was. And we were probably 9th or 10th grade, and we just made fun of him for the entire test drive because it had like the flower base in the dashboard.
Red.
Like, he took us there like, oh, these guys will think I'm so cool getting this Beetle, and we just made fun of him relentlessly, and it was awesome. I've also talked him out of buying a Cadillac because he's not a 7-year-old from Long Island.
Yeah, but that was recently. That was like within that was in the modern.
Yeah.
But the story you guys kind of touched on. Hold on, buddy. So they used to live on Casino Road overlooking the Walter Hall Golf Course. And my friends and I, we lived in Mukilteo, kind of by Olympic View. So we'd ride our bikes to their house, their condo, all the time. And one time they weren't home, so my buddy Jeremy climbed up on the railing, pulled himself up onto the roof, walked across the roof, dropped down on the balcony, opened up the slider, let us in. We rearranged their furniture and left like, funny notes like, we've taken your remote control. If you want to see it again, leave $500 underneath the trash can. And then we left thinking we were hilarious. And so Brandon got locked out of his house one time and thought, well, hey, Jeremy did this. I can do this. So he climbed up onto his roof, realized he didn't want to drop down to his balcony, got up there, thought he could long jump to the other roof, realized he couldn't do that. So they had to call the fire department to bring a ladder truck and then carry him down.
That's awesome.
Oh, man.
That's amazing.
All right, I have many Travis stories. Here is the one that I think is the most profound. So I'd moved to Modesto. It was now summertime. I think it was like a year later. And I was speaking at all of these summer camps in Washington. And, Travis was one of my boys. So I had a speaker's cabin and I invited Travis to come and stay with me for a week. I had known that Travis was not doing well, like doing really bad. And, but I thought, okay, I'm going to hang out with Travis, see if maybe the Holy Spirit can get a hold of him, inspire him, whatever. And do you remember this at all, Travis?
Oh yeah.
And so while we were there,
Stop.
God's moving at the altar and things like that. And I pulled Travis aside and I just kind of prophesied over him. And I said, if you keep going the way you're going, this is going to happen, this is going to happen, this is going to happen, blah, 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 blah. Something in Travis broke, and, Travis kind of recommits his life to Christ and eventually moves down to Modesto, like really, really quickly afterwards. And that's kind of like the new Travis kind of was born out of all of that. So
That's a good
I look
story.
at that as probably the most pivotal moment in your life. Do you realize if that would not have happened, I guarantee you never would have met and married Rebecca?
That's probably true.
You would probably be living out in the woods over somewhere by Mill Creek.
You'd be living with Justin and Lindsay.
Now,
I would totally support that.
to be honest with you.
Or Chris Parker and I would have like a bachelor pad somewhere.
It was way too spiritual.
I've had so many more stories pop in my head. There's
Yeah.
so many good
What
ones.
about I always talk about all of us, like some of you are from Modesto and some of you were at Bethany. And I always talk about like these amazing moves of God we've seen. Can you guys talk about that? I mean, a lot of people think that whenever we tell these stories that we're embellishing them, but like we all really didn't know what to expect, but God sovereignly moved in amazing ways at these
Oh
places.
yeah.
Yeah.
Even, we all tease now about the infamous human videos and stuff, but I mean, how many times in, a courtyard in Portland or, in some random place in California or even in Everett, did we just spend hours just talking with and praying with people we had no idea, but something big was going on. And I don't know how many times that happened. It was incredible. And people coming to youth service,
Yeah.
kind of more sketchier, stereotypical Everett people at the time, just coming out of gangs. And I mean, just all kinds of crazy. We saw a lot of crazy stuff happen over the years. It was pretty awesome.
I would say like most of our friends that we are friends with right now got saved in those youth ministries back then, or really kind of got focused in their relationship with Jesus. It's kind of an amazing thing.
I definitely got refocused. I know that the twins and Jacob all got saved during that youth ministry, and their lives were changed, forever because of those years. And I mean, that in itself is awesome. That's just 4 people. Imagine all the hundreds of other people,
Yeah. There was something insanely magnetic about just what was happening when I was a part of the youth ministry. I could invite anyone. I could invite people that I worked with. I could invite people that I had just met, and God was constantly moving at those services. And it's definitely where my life was changed. And a lot of people at that time didn't really know what my life was like at home. I kind of was the girl that acted like everything was great and came and was a social butterfly, but that was when things were really bad in my home, and I would wait till like 2 a.m. to go home and then wake up before anyone woke up so I didn't have to go home. And Pastor Brandon, infamous for his "you can do it" fist and "I believe in you," and even though it sounds cheesy, that was the first time someone ever had consistently told me that they believed in me. And even though there were a lot of big moments and services that I remember that were monumental in my life and other people's life, I think it was more the consistent just grace and pep talks and fun moments and inviting everyone into your home all of the time and being willing to spend time with each person and treat them like they were special, that gave me the second dad or the family that I really needed at the time. So, yeah.
Good. I always say that I think one of the biggest compliments that Di and I ever received from anyone ever in our youth ministry days, and it was our last service in youth ministry in Modesto, and a lot of our former leaders had come in and they were kind of saying, I'll never forget when Amy Rinta said what, again, Di and I to this day think it was the best compliment we've ever heard, which was, you know, because obviously we know we love Jesus and we know we love people and all of those things, but she kept saying how fun we were. That was my favorite part. So I always remind my kids that I'm fun. Rinta.
Yeah, there's a couple things like some things have PB has changed a little, meaning like, you know, Jen, you were telling the tattoo story. It was only a couple of years before that in Everett that youth leaders would get kicked off of being youth leaders if they got a tattoo, because at the time and at that church that was the rule and that's just the way it was.
From my boss.
So in his boss. So some things he's mellowed, but two things that has always been constant with PB and with Pastor Di is, one, their integrity. Like they're who you think they are behind closed doors, in front of 1,000 people. It doesn't matter. There's never going to be any really bad dirt that comes up. They are freaking who they are, and that's who they are. And the other thing is PB will always push you beyond what you can do. So like in youth ministry, as a leader of venture, as, you know, blah, 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 there's like, here's reasonably what we can do as a team. Here's what we're actually going to go for, so that it has to be Jesus. And he never has let it be him building something or us as a church doing something. He goes beyond what we can actually do. And so it always goes back to Jesus. And that's those two things. He and I have never changed one bit. And that's a good thing.
My favorite thing, as I'm looking around at the 5 of you, 6, counting Boone too, I'll count him. You guys are all just kind of living examples of what, when you get saved, recommit your life to Christ, you be faithful to Jesus, you just grow as a follower of Jesus, how the rest of your life is blessed. I mean, have you looked at the one constant with everybody in this circle? You're all happily married. You all have great careers, great families, great lives, and you love Jesus. And I mean, that is honestly, that's our hope with the gospel always. But Di and I are always immensely proud of you guys. You guys have made us look great. But it is fun seeing you all be like old adults now. I still have more hair than Justin, and Boone, and Travis, and probably Chris too. I have more hair than all of you combined. But it is, it's really fun to see that, hey, all those things that we taught about when you were all teenagers, if you live it out, pursue Christ, you know, and this will be added to you as well. Seek first his kingdom. And
absolutely.
It's kind of cool. Look around how blessed everybody is.
Yeah. The one thing I'll say about my first introduction to Brandon was him being the youth pastor and seeing this youth ministry that was already bigger than anything I had ever seen before. But to see how close you were to the Holy Spirit and how the Holy Spirit moved in the services, unlike anything else I had really experienced, and seeing you at camps where you would take the interns with you to go to camp, and I'm just in there and I'm seeing, you know, kids just break everywhere. And I was blown away by that. And I used to ask you all the time, Brandon, you know, like, man, do you miss that? Do you miss camps? Do you miss, you know, and seeing all that? And you were always just like, no, this is where God has me right now in this phase of life. But, you know, it's always fun to look back on all the lives that you've touched. And I mean, all the people on here, with the exception of Travis, because he doesn't live in Hawaii. I mean, because he lives in Hawaii, you know, we all attend, and we were all there at the beginning of Venture, you know, when it was Canyon Creek on day one. And
Curly was too.
Yeah, he was, but I'm saying, like, we all still attend. And, you know, it just goes to show of like the impact that you had on our life, which allowed a bigger legacy. You know, we always talk about, you know, that youth pastors say you can reach the world. And now, like with the church, because we're online, we're reaching people that are way outside of Washington. We're reaching all over the place. And so it's just been amazing to see. And then obviously, you know, through youth ministry, you've had interns and stuff like that you've sent out and everything of just being what you've accomplished is more than what can just be put on paper, but how you've touched all of our lives, Brandon. And
I think one of the things that's really been cool to watch the evolution of in all of our relationship is I went from being your youth pastor, and now we're all friends. And that's a fun evolution. Justin and I were chatting about this, it's 2 weeks ago. The reality that I'm actually not that much older than most of you. So I was like young when I was everybody's youth pastor, like as young as my daughter. And you kind of put those things in that context. I'm really surprised I was given as much influence over people as I was at that young of an age, but it's been fun to watch the evolution of our relationships. Now we're peers, friends, and
well, and part of that is what you did was you set it up so it wasn't the, Brandon show. We weren't following, yes, there's a relationship and you've inspired people to, because of your relationship with them to come to church or whatever, but you always set it up as the Jesus show. It was never a follow me, Brandon Beals. It was, if you're around me, I'm going to teach you to go to Jesus. And that's what's been so remarkable and why people have been changed, because it wasn't, one of these crazy stories where people just follow this leader absent-mindedly and blah, 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 blah. I mean, you've never done that. So of course it's going to be actual, true, real, authentic relationships, because we've all experienced Jesus together at different times, because that's what you always were pointing everybody to, So I think that's pretty awesome.
Well, and one other thing to confirm, like what you're saying, Justin, is I've even seen people that they started getting out of it's just about Jesus, and they started being consumed with it's about themselves. And Brandon always reeled them back in, even to the point that he would pull them off of certain things just so that they understood what it was really about. And I think that just goes to solidify what you were saying.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, I like the fact that Travis's now 20-plus-year-old nickname of Curly Pumpkin happened at a youth retreat. Sorry, Jen, go ahead.
I was just saying, and they're still fun. It's like you were fun as a youth pastor, but you're fun now. Like being around you guys is still an adventure. Following you is still an adventure. Traveling with you is still fun. And so I think, you get the person, the authentic Brandon and Di, you know what you're going to get. You have a blast with them and you get to serve Jesus and grow along the way. So
is this a good time to take an offering for the car bill I just got from my kid's car? $2,200. That was who I was on the phone with.
My connection's getting kind of bad. Sorry.
Yeah, I think it's time, Boone. We're over time.
Well, that's all we have.
I forgot, Brandon, do you remember when I was it was my senior trip and I fell asleep and you put a kiss for 25 cents box next to me and videotaped it, and a creepy man woke me up asking for a kiss? Oh my gosh.
We gave him $1 because he needed 4.
Oh, Parker, you were a youth leader. You should have stopped him.
Please tell me that creepy man was Unky Trav.
I think Travis is the one that put the thing there.
I'm sure. It's all videotaped. The things I put up with.
I don't think I was there for your senior year. I think I moved down afterwards.
You did, yeah, that's true. Travis cannot be blamed.
Travis reaps the benefits of being my personal mascot.
No, with the Curly nickname is, I remember one year at camp, Brandon was going down the line praying for all of us, and he got to me. He's like, "God, I pray for Curly," and he forgot my name, and he just called me Curly, and it was a super serious moment, and I'm trying not to laugh.
Well,
dude, there's a story that
it took me 3 times to remember her name.
Yeah.
There's a story that Jacob calls, who I like to call Kaka, because when Rachel Beals was 2, she couldn't say Jacob, so she said Kaka. And I think that is so fitting for that guy, so I still like to call him Kaka. But he likes to tell the story when he and Leslie worked for them in Modesto. some Sunday morning when there was a family that their last name was Fuggin. And so the way Jacob tells it, like Pastor Berteau was up there like on stage, like we just lift up the whole Fuggin family and just bless the Fuggin family or whatever. And when Jacob tells it, he gets like tears in his eyes and he can't finish the story. I wish I would have been there for that. But of course, that's the kind of story that Jacob would remember.
The best thing about Modesto was Pastor Berteau never knew Leslie's name. I think he called her like Jessica or something the entire time that she was there.
Awesome.
Oh.
And he would always call Jacob into his office and try to negotiate fantasy sports trades with him.
Sounds about right.
That's funny. Okay, well, that's about all the time that we have. But Brandon, you made a huge impact in so many lives, and so
Yeah.
I'm proud of you all.
I just wanted everyone to.
Travis, you need to move back.
Brandon, the youth pastor, and Travis, you do need to move back. And so you can't go anywhere. So you might as well come back here, and that way you can go to a restaurant and go see a movie. So
We need to do one of these.
In Hawaii, guys. Come on.
Yeah, I'm gonna go to the beach on Christmas Day.
We're all
Screw you
just
guys.
jealous,
You
Travis.
come here.
we can go to the beach on Christmas Day if we want to.
Yeah. We need to do one of these calls just for stories about Travis.
Yeah.
It's true. Travis used to live in the Weedle on the Needle house.
Awesome.
Well, I have a
Anybody
Travis
knows what
story.
those books are? We should probably
definitely have a
go.
Travis story.
We should definitely go now.
Yeah, we should go. Okay. Well, thanks.
Wait,
Bye,
what's-
everybody.
We had fun. Okay.